afternoon sunshine shines down on the Donington Park Grand Prix circuit ahead of race number 3 of the weekend for the Protyre Motorsport Ginetta GT Championship. They had a race yesterday, they had a race earlier on this morning in the wet conditions, and now very similar conditions really to those that we had yesterday afternoon, greeting the drivers ahead of what should be an exciting race, albeit a slightly shortened race. Those of you who've been tuned in to Donington Park all day will know that our British GT race took a little bit longer than anticipated to conclude earlier on today, and so we are a little bit delayed. It is 5:30 here at Donington Park. We're supposed to have everything done by about 6:45, so we are going to try to get everything back on track to run shortened races this afternoon. So 15 minutes the duration, we believe, for all of our remaining Ginetta races through the rest of the day. As I said, 2 races that we've had so far, yesterday's race and this morning's race, won by Mckenzie Douglass, with Nick White in second and Luke Garlick in third. Really all of the action was happening behind those top 3, with Conner Garlick and Ben McKenna engaging in a couple of entertaining scraps. There was a penalty given to Ben McKenna after he gained an unfair advantage in the earlier race. He was dropped back behind Conner Garlick, so I confess it was that long ago I can't actually remember what happened, but there may have been some contact between the two of them, and anyway, McKenna was the one who was handed the penalty ultimately, but anyway, he will now be hopeful to get another result, maybe try and find his way onto the podium for the first time this weekend. That would be nice, and we'll see whether he can maybe mix up the running order that we've seen at the front of the field so far. So the car's led around by the safety car, just the one green flag lap this time, so we'll rattle through the grid. Mckenzie Douglass is on pole position with Nick White for company on that front row with him. Nick White, the AM runner, who's been a bit of a breakout star really today. Luke Garlick starts third alongside his brother Conner Garlick on that second row of the grid. Row 3 is where Ben McKenna finds himself alongside Jack Manchester, and then on row number 4 it is Peter Mangum and Gracie Mitchell. 5th row of the grid then for Callum Noble and Harry Mangum completing the top 10, and then at the back of the grid Matt Shaw, who is one to watch. I think Matt Shaw, he hasn't had necessarily the best of weekends so far, but Matt Shaw, after a spin in the earlier race, finished at the back of the field. Had a bad start in race 1 as well, but he started both of those races from 3rd on the grid. Now he's coming from the back of the grid again. He's going to have to really show off his overtaking skills if he's going to be able to net himself a decent result. Onboard camera here with Callum Noble for Xentek Motorsport, starting from 9th on the grid. Making his way now down the exhibition straight at a 15-minute race. A shorter race means that the start is all the more important, and certainly for Nick White, if he's going to try and get himself an overall race victory, needs to try and get past Mckenzie Douglass at the start of the race. If he can do that, then he might just be able to defend for 15 minutes, especially if we get something like a safety car midway through the race, which is not beyond the realms of possibility, most definitely. So as they head to the Melbourne hairpin then, we're almost ready to get this race started. Our 3rd and final race of the weekend in the Protyre Motorsport Ginetta GT Championship. Mckenzie Douglass on board with him, the double winner so far this weekend, and all of this means that in the points he is now 15 ahead of Luke Garlick, who is also 15 ahead of Conner Garlick. So that's the order at the top of the championship within the pro category anyway. Nick White dominant in the rookie or the amateur category, leading now Matt Shaw by 91 points. Right then, across the line we go, and it is Mckenzie Douglass on the inside line who sees the red lights extinguish and accelerates towards Redgate Corner then. Mckenzie Douglass on the inside line. Can he hold on to the advantage? Conner Garlick almost getting into the back of it. Sorry, Luke Garlick that is, but Nick White sends it round the outside and tries to draw level with the leader, but actually gets squeezed out over the curb, and Luke Garlick is through into 2nd place. So Luke Garlick taking full advantage of that, moves through into 2nd, brings with him Ben McKenna, and Nick White down into 4th position. Conner Garlick now sees a chance, gets up the inside into the old hairpin, but Nick White standing his ground, as he's perfectly entitled to do, on the outside line, and settles back in 4th place, sorry, in 3rd place, no, 4th, right the first time. Conner Garlick taking out the bollard there at Starkey's. White sideways into McLean's. He's going to go wide on the exit, and Conner Garlick surely now will have an opportunity to get to the inside line into Coppice Corner, and Nick White couldn't fight that one in the end and does now slip down another place. But it's okay because that car, sorry, no, not that one, the 22 car, Peter Mangum, is Nick White's nearest amateur rival in this race, and he's still well ahead of him. We're on board with Harry Mangum now, closing in on the 2 cars ahead as we hit the brakes into the Fogarty GTSs. Got to get down to single file through there, which they do, and then make their way down towards the Melbourne hairpin for the first time. Mckenzie Douglass will have loved seeing that battling going on behind him, because he's already starting to pull away now from Luke Garlick second. 3 abreast further back. Yeah, that involved Matt Shaw, who was trying to get to the outside of Gracie Mitchell and Callum Noble. And Matt Shaw hasn't actually picked up a place yet from starting at the back of the grid. There goes Mckenzie Douglass then, off the final corner, leads at the end of the opening lap. Luke Garlick second, Ben McKenna third. So already a different look to the order at the sharp end. Out wide in the background there went Callum Noble. And so Matt Shaw now does have a chance to drive past him and maybe claim that place into Redgate. He's late on the brakes and he does get the move made. So Noble slips down to 11th place. Shaw back into the top 10, so that's one small step forwards, but he really wants to be trying to take bigger leaps towards the front than that. Luke Garlick then with Ben McKenna on his tail as they head through Starkeys for the second time. Mckenzie Douglass, though, 1.5 seconds up the road already, and has been simply untouchable, hasn't he, really, this weekend, Mckenzie? And he has been racking up the points, racking up the wins, and all of that means that he leads the championship. He's already on 4 wins so far this year. Didn't, interestingly, win either race at Silverstone, though, because at Silverstone it was the Garlicks who were a little bit quicker. Luke winning race 1, Conner winning race 2. But here at Donington Park, he has been absolutely unstoppable. Now, there is Conner Garlick, stuck behind Nick White for the time being. They clobber the curbs at the chicane. And Conner Garlick tries to fire himself off the chicane quickly enough to have a go down at the Melbourne hairpin. Does he jink to the inside? Yes, he does. Does Nick White cover it? Yes, he does. Turns into the apex and holds on to the position. Conner Garlick then actually a little bit too eager on the loud pedal, just sort of slides out to the edge of the road. That means he's not then close enough to do anything into the final corner at Goddard's. Round the downhill left-hand you go. You can really see from that angle just how steeply downhill it is. So easy to understeer wide through the corner and end up on the grass as Callum Noble did a lap ago. Matt Shaw in the background, I spotted, by the way, had gone past Gracie Mitchell now, so Matt Shaw up into 9th position. As there, Nick White continues on his way. There is Mckenzie Douglass, a 1:37.777 is his fastest lap. Now, fastest lap of the weekend so far, a 37.077, so exactly 7/10 slower than that, as Conner Garlick has a big wobble down at the old hairpin. Did he keep it on the track? Just about, but he's really dropped back now, hasn't he, from Nick White, who, in fairness, was half a second clear of him anyway at the start of the lap. Conner Garlick now looking like his car handling is going away a little bit. It's always interesting in this third race of the weekend because they're limited on the number of tyres that they can have over the course of the weekend. Very often drivers get to this final race and they've saved their worst tyres till last in a way. That's why they do generally tend to be a little bit slower in the last race of the weekend. Black and white warning flag, number 63, Conner Garlick, already, we've only completed 2 laps, he's already being warned about track limits. And the number 63 car now needs to be really, really careful because another track limits indiscretion will lead to a penalty and that will cost him places. Here comes Matt Shaw. This is for 8th place overall now against Peter Mangan, but that's more importantly 2nd place within the AM class. So Matt Shaw will definitely want to try and make that move stick as quickly as he can. Looks to the inside into Goddard's corner, but I think he's a touch too far back there. Peter Mangan stays in front. The white car with the 2 red stripes on it. Peter Mangan sitting in 8th place, accelerates off the corner. Is he moving out of the way of Matt Shaw? He's certainly not defending the inside line, is he? I think he knows that Matt is quicker, and he almost does wave Matt Shaw through, really. So Shaw goes up the inside, picks up the place at Redgate. Peter Mangan made that very easy for Shaw, who now gets his head down to try and bridge what is a 3.5 second gap to Harry Mangan ahead. So Mckenzie Douglass rounds McLean's corner. Mckenzie is, again, looking absolutely sublime in this race, isn't he? 2.2 seconds his lead. He won the first race by 4.7 seconds. He won that wet race earlier on today by 13.2 seconds. So perhaps on course to replicate that again in this race, although it is obviously a shorter race. Look at that, inch perfect over the curves. He's the only one that doesn't look scrappy through there, never looks like he's going to clip the tyres. The car never looks like stepping out from underneath him. Luke Garlick, try as he might, just can't quite keep up with the race leader. Here comes Conner Garlick meanwhile. Conner Garlick still under pressure, isn't he, from Jack Manchester and Harry Mangan. So for whatever reason, Conner Garlick's pace has just evaporated as the race goes on. Harry Mangan, by the way, has set a fastest middle sector on this lap of anybody. So a new fastest lap is set by Mckenzie Douglass, a 1:37.7, but in the first sector, Harry was only a tenth slower than him. He was about half a tenth quicker than him in the middle sector, and in the end was a 38.7. So, yeah, lost some time in the final sector there, possibly because he caught up to Jack Manchester, former Radical and European and Asian Le Mans Series racer. Jack Manchester. Down through the old hairpin they go. Just had a slow lap last time around, by the way, for Callum Noble. Callum Noble, 11th position, but I think he has been off the road on that lap. A very slow middle sector, I think it was. No, a final sector. So I think he might have had a spin at either the chicane or one of the hairpins. Anyway, he's still going, just some way detached from the rest of the pack. On board still then with Mangan, as he tries to figure out a way past Jack Manchester ahead. Manchester dropping back now slightly from Conner Garlick as he has to focus more on his mirrors than what's going on out in front of him. Ooh, and then clips the tyres for good measure through the chicane. There's a sort of rubber belting around the outside of the tyres which sticks out a bit more, so that's often what they're clipping unless they hit the tyre stack properly. Now Jack Manchester, 5-second penalty already, so we are only coming up towards the conclusion of lap number 5, and Jack Manchester becomes the first driver to pick up a track limits penalty. We've had more track limits penalties this weekend than we had over the entire weekend at Silverstone, which is remarkable really, given Silverstone's reputation for generating track limits infringements and all of that tarmac runoff area that you can use. But here at Donington, they really are using every inch of the East Midlands circuit that they can. Downhill they come then through the Craner curves. And Mckenzie Douglass with another new fastest lap now, 37.258, getting closer to the pace that he had in that first race yesterday. There's Harry Mangan on the tail of Jack Manchester, has a good run on Manchester actually as they head up the hill, so Jack moves to the inside line to defend. Can Harry Mangan go right round the outside? He's almost cleared, Jack, but he's sideways! Oh! And around he goes, off into the gravel trap. Harry Mangan, I think he lost that on his own. I don't think there was contact until after he'd got sideways. But now, is he beached in the gravel trap or not? Yes, is the answer. He wasn't until he tried to accelerate, and then the car predictably dug him. And he's going nowhere, so unfortunately Harry Mangan's charge comes to an end. Jack Manchester picked up a little bit of damage in all of that as well, but I think he was just on the wrong side of the road there, wasn't he really, on the outside line where there isn't a lot of grip, and he unfortunately lost control. We'll try and get a replay of that maybe and see whether or not there was contact beforehand. Across the line comes Mckenzie Douglass, Luke Garlick in the background. Here is the external replay. Is there a touch? I don't think so. No, locked the rears, went round on his own, and then contact subsequently as Harry was already spinning. Here's the on-board view. You can see there the big mistake, really, from Jack Manchester running wide out of the old hairpin. Remember, he's already got a penalty for track limits and just went beyond them again. Harry saw his chance, and then I think he's just desperately late on the brakes, but it's the dirty side of the road, and he just loses control. Saw that as his opportunity to gain the place, and then just got it all wrong under braking, basically. Now, are they going to leave that car there? The marshal trudges away through the gravel trap, leaving Harry Mangan in the car. And they wouldn't leave him in the car if they were intending on leaving the car there, if that makes sense. I think they are going to try and recover it, but whether they do that under safety car or local yellows, have to wait and see. There is sometimes a snatch vehicle, live snatch vehicle up at that end of the track, so they might be able to use that to extricate that car from the gravel trap, which would be good because it means we don't have an interruption to the race. Fastest first sector of anybody, by the way, set by Nick White. So Nick White quicker than Mckenzie Douglass has been through the first sector of the lap. The middle sector, though, he drops a little bit of time. yeah, about half a second or so. But look, he's caught Ben McKenna. That's possibly why he slowed down in the middle sector, because he has now caught Ben McKenna. Conner Garlick, by the way, now being given a 5-second penalty. So Conner Garlick, who was being warned about track limits before Jack Manchester was actually, now picks up a 5-second time penalty as well. So Conner Garlick, you can see him looming in the distance. Unfortunately, 5 seconds to be added onto his time, but the next car behind him is the other car with a 5-second penalty, and he's then over 5 seconds clear of Matt Shaw behind him. So, although Matt Shaw is lapping comparably in pace to Conner Garlick, so not unfeasible that Matt could get himself within 5 seconds. Anyway, none of that affects the battle for third position. There's a surface flag out down the hill. That's interesting. So, oh, that's why there's a bollard in the middle of the road. The surface flag doesn't necessarily mean slippery surface. It just means there's something on the track that you wouldn't necessarily expect to see. So it's just to warn the drivers for a lap or two that that bollard is there. It's off the racing line, but if you were to go down there side by side, then the car on the outside could easily end up hitting it. They are just leaving yellows out at McLean's by the looks of it. So, leaving... In fact, they've already got that car out of the way, have they? They've pulled it right back through the gravel trap very efficiently. You can see there the marshals just completing that recovery job. So Harry Mangin's car out of the way, and no need for a safety car. Right, Jack Manchester, having survived that skirmish, is now under threat from Matt Shaw. Manchester with a damaged front end with a 5-second penalty to be applied post-race. It's not been a great conclusion to his weekend, but he would like to at least salvage something here by keeping the AM front runner Matt Shaw at bay. Matt Shaw is putting together a pretty good race here, actually, having started from the back up to 7th position at the moment, trying now to make that 6th as he accelerates uphill. There goes McKenna. Third position for him. Nick White in behind in 4th. And Nick White already on course for yet another AM class victory, but you have to imagine that the more wins in the class that he racks up and the bigger his championship lead becomes over Matt Shaw, the more he might just start thinking about overall finishing positions rather than stressing too much about scoring points for his championship. Obviously, he doesn't want to throw it away and damage the car or end up in a gravel trap, but I think he will be tempted into having a go at Ben here if he has half a chance. Accelerate up through Starkey's. Left-hand sweeper at Schwant. Still yellow flags out at McLean's just because they're still in the process of getting the recovery vehicle out of the way, I would imagine. Touch and go as to whether we'll get another lap here as well. I think we will get another lap at the end of this one because, yeah, they have 50 seconds to go. It's taking them about 38 seconds or 36 seconds if you're quick to get through the final sector. So yeah, it should be another lap to go after this one. And Fox Motorsport will have to wait another lap before they can celebrate a win. Mckenzie Douglass sliding the car through the Melbourne hairpin. Accelerates into the final corner. The nose dips aggressively on the car as he turns through Goddard's and accelerates to the line to begin the final lap of the weekend. And like I said, one more time around the nearly 2.5-mile Donington Park Grand Prix circuit before he completes the hat-trick of victories and becomes the first driver this season to sweep a weekend and win every race. And he's done it from pole in every race. And I'm pretty certain he's had the fastest lap in every race as well. So that is maximum points heading the way of Mckenzie Douglass. And that is going to be a pretty impressive points haul. Down the hill comes the battle for third. McKenna still ahead of Nick White then. Nick White looking to try now and build a challenge on the last lap. He's a little bit closer maybe at this part of the track than he has been. But you can't really do a lot of overtaking up here unless you're prepared to be really aggressive. Oh, and he is, because he's forced a mistake there out of Ben McKenna. McKenna has to go defensive into Coppice. That means he might run a bit wide, but Nick White turned in too early and had to duck back out of that, had to have 2 bites of the cherry, otherwise he was going to cut right over the inside curb. That means he's not able to get alongside down the back straight, but a good run through the chicane could yield an opportunity into the Melbourne hairpin, but he's very gentle over the curbs, is Nick White, not using any of the inside curb really through the right-hander. And And that means that I don't think he's going to be close enough as they drop down into the Melbourne hairpin. No, he's not. There's now just one more opportunity presenting at the final corner. But for Mckenzie Douglass, it is a perfect weekend. That doesn't happen very often. 3 wins from 3 in the Protyre Motorsport Ginetta GT Championship. And that does his championship hopes the world of good. Luke Garlick comes home in second ahead of Ben McKenna, who fends off Nick White for third. And Conner Garlick comes home in 5th position. With Matt Shaw next, no, Jack Manchester next, because he's got that time penalty, so he's showing on the timing screen behind Matt Shaw, but actually was still ahead of him on the road. So Manchester comes home 6th on the road, but 7th on corrected times. So Mckenzie Douglass claims another win, and like I said, I am pretty sure that is maximum points from the weekend. I'm just going to double check the fastest laps from the other races. Yeah, fastest laps in both races, plus 2 pole positions. Obviously, 3 pole positions technically, but only the first 2 are based upon qualifying times. The 3rd race grid based upon the result from race 2, so you don't get a bonus point for that. You've already been rewarded for winning with 35 championship points after race 2. Nick White will be pretty satisfied as well. I think he's probably done maximum score as well in the AM class, has he not? Yes, he has. So both of them sweeping the weekend completely. Not the first time that Nick White has won all 3 races, or won a full set of races anyway this weekend. He won both the races, sorry, this season I should say. He won both the races at Silverstone. It's Mckenzie Douglass who's doing the winning here at Donington Park. 3 wins from 3, a perfect weekend for the Fox Motorsport driver. Xentek Motorsport's Luke Garlick was 2nd, ahead of Ben McKenna for NDD Racing. Then it was Raceway Motorsport, Nick White in 4th place, who won the AM class. Conner Garlick was 5th, ahead of Matt Shaw, Jack Manchester, Peter Mannion, Gracie Mitchell and Callum Noble, with Harry Mannion, unfortunately, a non-finisher after that spin up at McLean's. So, top job from Mckenzie Douglass. Let's take a look back at how he won the 3rd race of the weekend here at Donington Park. Well, he did it from pole position, really, led into turn 1, never looked back. Luke Garlick, though, managed to break through on the inside of Nick White, who tried to hang tough around the outside, but just couldn't find the grip, and then got elbowed wide over the curbs, and so Luke Garlick was able to go through, and so too was Ben McKenna. Nick did, however, get back on the road in front of Conner Garlick, who tried to get him down at the old hairpin, but Nick White stood his ground and managed to hang on, and actually Conner Garlick would then slip backwards during the race before picking up a 5-second time penalty. Matt Shaw was bouncing back after his spin in race 2, started at the back of the grid and picked his way through most of the AM runners to eventually claim 2nd place. One of the big moments of the race came when Jack Manchester and Harry Mannion's battle came to a head. Harry tried to take advantage of a mistake from Manchester at the old hairpin, went to the outside of McLean's, lost control and spun into the gravel, but good work by the marshals meant that there was no need for a safety car interruption. In the closing stages, Nick White closed in on Ben McKenna for 3rd position overall, but in the end wasn't quite able to find a way through and had to settle ultimately for 4th, but another AM win. But it was a perfect weekend, maximum points scored at Donington Park for race winner Mckenzie Douglass.